This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Hey, and happy Saturday morning to everyone. This is the Dr. Sem Yankees Show. Welcome. Happy Saturday. Let's make today a great day. And how do you make each day great? You find the good that's in life and you appreciate it. You notice it, you revel in it, and you appreciate it. Instead of focusing on the things that are negative, the things that might not be going your way, look to all the other things, all the goodness that's around. And when we appreciate what's good, we make our own lives better. And then we spread that out to other people. So appreciate the good, look for the good, and then perpetuate the good and share it with other people. Now, as you know, the Dr. Sem Show and the Start Spreading the News podcast, which comes on Monday nights, are brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. Artemisia Publishing is an independent publisher in New Mexico that obviously produces books nationwide. One of their newest books, of course, is my 365.2, A Runner's Journey. I just did a great interview on that, which will be airing on the radio in early July. And the other exciting news is my wonderful novel, Scattering the Ashes, is going to be made into an audiobook. And I will be in New York City in just a couple of weeks for a couple of long days narrating my novel. But today we're here to talk about a different book from a different author, a great book called 7:15 at 50, The Night Henry Aaron Changed Baseball and the World Forever, written by Randy Cox. And Randy, we are so fortunate, is with us here today. Randy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on the show and telling those great statements this morning, positive. It's baseball season. We're in the middle of the season, and we're got it started off well. I know y'all are, of course, big Yankees fans. I'm a Braves fan, but I have a warm spot in my heart for Yankees and maybe even some of the Mets when we have to play them. But I really got started in baseball with Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron because they were in the 1957 World Series. I was about 7 years old in the second grade, and I was in Cub Scouts, and we were watching the World Series between the Yankees and the Braves, and that was one of the best World Series that has ever been played, as far as I'm concerned. And unfortunately for the Yankees, Mickey Mantle had some injuries, but he and Hank Aaron, like I say, they were one of my two favorite ball players and of all time, and they still are. And in fact, my first book, I don't know if you can see this or not, but has Hank Aaron 715th home run that I took, and Mickey Mantle's baseball card. So those are the two that I followed, and I got to meet both of them, and that was incredible. I actually got to meet Mickey Mantle in 1967. He was about a year away from retirement, and he had some businesses going, including a line of clothing stores. And I lived in Decatur, Georgia, and they opened up a store there at the mall. And I went in, and there was nobody in the store except for Mickey Mantle and the clerk. And I went around, and I said, wanted to get the autograph. And he said, "Who do you want me to make it out to?" I said, Randy. And I got to talk to him for a minute, and he signed me the photo. And that was a wonderful moment. Later on, I got to meet Hank Aaron twice. The first
That's
time,
in the book too. Yes.
Right. First time was actually when I was in college, and I was studying journalism at Georgia State, and I didn't really have a big desire to go into sports journalism, but I thought, well, this might be okay to check it out. So I went to Atlanta Stadium in '71 to see the Braves play the Giants, and Hank Aaron was sitting on 599. So at that game, I thought, well, maybe he'll hit his 600th. Yep, he did. He hit his 600th against Giants, and afterwards we got to talk to him. I was with some of the Atlanta Constitution reporters that I was paired with, Wayne Minshew and Hal Hayes, and we talked to him and Henry Aaron. We asked him. I think I asked him. I said, "What are you thinking about 7-15?" And he said, I'm really not thinking about that right now. It's so far away. But then 3 years later, he was sitting on 7-13. Like I said, going into the Cincinnati game. So it was a very quick 3 years. I had gone from being in journalism as a junior in '71 to actually working in the sports field. I was in Alabama at the Valley Times News, a small newspaper that's located between Auburn and LaGrange, just right on the border of Georgia and Alabama. So it was about 90 miles away from Atlanta. And I'd been working there a year. And this came up, and it was a little bit of a drive. And I said, well, I'm going to at least go to the first game. Let's see what he does. Because like I said, he'd already hit 7-14. So it was a lucky thing. I mean, I was just so lucky to be there. And everybody was anticipating that he was going to hit it that night. And he did on the first swing of the bat. And it was incredible. It was incredible. 50 years later, I still can remember so many cool stuff about that night. And like I said, I was so lucky to be able to take pictures for the newspaper, and we ended up with probably 90 or 100 photos that we published, maybe 10 or 12. And then about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, after Henry Aaron had passed away, I got to thinking, I may need to print these pictures up because they never even been printed. So I got the old negatives and took it to a dealer here in Atlanta. And a lot of people don't print from negatives, as you know, with digital. But they printed them up, and they were clear as a bell on the scans. I mean, seriously. So I got with sending out some queries on possibly doing a picture book. Well, one thing leads to another, and I found Summer Game Books. Walt Friedman, he is a publisher, and he was great baseball. He is a great baseball fan and a good one to know how to put things together. And so, make a long story short, we put everything together, put the pictures together. We added, ended up with, 44 pictures, just like
Hank Aaron's number.
Plus some other photos. I got to show you one photo. Do you have the photo of the crowd as Hank Aaron comes in to the plate? I think I sent that one to you.
Yeah, you did. Yep. And with the little arrow with you.
Right.
Yep. I'll show that one right now. So
okay.
Let me just take one step back. This is the book again. Here's the cover, 7-15 at 50. 44, you can see the big 44 on the cover because Hank Aaron was number 44. It's put together phenomenally. And Randy, as we've been talking about, was fortunate enough to be at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium for that first game that the Braves were playing at home in 1974. And was there to witness the event, and he took some of the photos. We're going to walk through some of those, including we were before we went on, we were talking about this one, but we're not going to talk about that one quite yet because that's the home run swing. And instead, we have this one, a color shot. And if you look sort of to the right side of your screen, I believe, maybe I'm backwards, but there's a little arrow, there's a little white arrow, and that is you, correct?
Yes, it is. In fact, you can see everybody's kind of crowding in to congratulate him. And I was standing away from him because I was trying to get pictures. If I had gone in, I couldn't take any pictures. So I didn't get a chance to talk to him until after they had a little ceremony with Monty Irvin and the commissioner. Of course, he did not show up. That was
big controversy.
Big controversy. He was at 714, but he had an engagement with the Wahoo Club in Cleveland that night. So he passed on it and sent Monty Irvin, who was royally booed most of the night. He didn't have anything to do. He was just representing Kuhn. But it was a great night. And after the presentations, after the home run, Hank Aaron took a moment to walk over to where they had given him a bronze bust that was a really good likeness. Yes, that's right. Cue that. Really good likeness of him. And he was sitting there by himself. And I was close by, and I went over there and took the initiative and shook his hand and congratulated him. And he said, "Thank you." And boy, that just made my evening. And for a long time, I didn't wash my hand or anything, but no, it was a great moment. And I'll always cherish that evening. And it was just so exciting. And it's one of those things where you talk about it for years and years, and then 50 years later, we just celebrated the 50th anniversary at Truist, the Braves ballpark, and it was a good ceremony. We had the Aaron family there, and some of the players that were in the game. We had talked about Ron Reed and Buzz Capra are both in the book.
Right.
And
So you had in the book, you have interviews with both Ron Reed and Buzz Capra. I think you did those interviews in 2023, so they're recent. And I think that adds a nice element to the whole story. The book is short. But it's packed with so many different things. You have the interviews, you talk to the PR guy, Bob Hope, who when I first started reading, I thought was Bob Hope, the other Bob Hope. And I'm like, why would Bob Hope be so involved in this thing? But it was a different Bob Hope.
Yeah, well, this Bob, he's still around, and I talked to him on occasion. He lives in about a mile from where I grew up in Decatur, and we get together. I got to get together with him and Ron, for dinner or lunch one day, and got to talk to them. And Bob, I think the readers will really love his interview because it's got some really interesting backstories. I won't go into them, but there is a story in there about they actually had a female streaker at that game, and she was up in the stands in left field, and somebody eventually put a raincoat on her. She'd gone to sit in some guy's lap, and then the ushers started moving her out, and one of the ushers called Bob Hope on the phone, and she had timed it so she would streak at the moment he hit his 715th home run, which that's what she said. And the usher called Bob Hope and said, "What do we do about this lady streaker?" And Bob said, don't worry about it. Nobody even saw her,
Yeah, nobody was caring. Nobody cared at all. All the eyes were focused on Hank Aaron. And interesting, there were two people that, and you document this in the book as well, that were not part of the game, and somehow they just showed up. They ran onto the field and they got right up to Hank Aaron as he was rounding the bases between second and third, as I recall. And I believe you even had a chance to tell a little of their stories, correct?
Well, yes, that was so interesting because it was like a spontaneous thing. The two guys were Britt Gaston and Cliff Courtney, and Cliff became an ophthalmologist, and Britt became a graphic design company owner, and he's passed away. But Courtney is still living. He's retired now, and I wasn't able to contact him. But in recent times, he had said somebody had asked him, what that was all about, and he said it was just spontaneous. They just did it spontaneous. And the thing about it, the security were all looking at the celebrities and the players and stuff, and making sure nobody came around them. They didn't have it in their idea that some kids were going to jump over to the field. And a guy named Calvin Laidlaw was Hank Aaron's bodyguard, and he had his hand on his gun the minute that they jumped out, and he waited a few seconds and then realized that it was just going to be, it was fun. But those guys took a chance. I know they didn't think about it, but it turned out okay. And Hank had gotten with them later on, years past, for little reunions, but it made for a very interesting thing to do. But there was a few seconds there where there was a big security problem.
Yeah, and that would never happen today. That somebody could get that close in a situation like that. But it was in more innocent times, 1974. Now, you mentioned a lot of celebrities, and you have a photo in your book. I'll bring that one up here. Here are some of the celebrities that were at the game. You want to talk a little about who those people are?
Yes, I do. In the front row there, you have, of course, Sammy Davis Jr. and his wife Altaviz, and back of him, of course, you have Miss Lillian Carter, and she was a character, and also Rosalind Carter, and they had that was a box there on the first base side, and I was in the photographer's box a little bit farther down, taking pictures. Also, in the stadium was Pearl Bailey, who sung the national anthem before the game. Red Fox was there, the comedian, and many of them participated in a This Is Your Life, Hank Aaron, before the game. They had a map of the United States, and each person, and Hank Aaron's mother and dad were there. They would stand on the part of the United States where Hank Aaron either met them or where his birthplace was in Mobile, and that's where the Aaron stood. But that was before the game, and Monty Irvin, he missed that part. He got there late. In fact, I didn't even see that myself because it was about 30 or 45 minutes before the game. But and I've been trying to get some pictures of it, but I haven't been able to. But we did get plenty of pictures of the pregame ceremony, which was at the front. Ernie Johnson and Bill Bartholomew and the Braves officials gave different mementos to Henry Aaron. Henry Aaron got to get up and talk about how his feelings were, and like I said, most of his feelings were, I'm just glad it's just about over, because it had been, Paul, a 2 or 3 year
Countdown.
Of chasing the ghost of Babe Ruth. And I have to tell you, there was a lot of publicity about hate mail that Hank Aaron got those years. But he did not get, as far as the percentage, it was real small. Most of the mail that he got was positive, and the kids were so excited about him breaking Babe Ruth during their lifetime. And I had one. There was one letter that a kid sent in and said, "Mr. Aaron, I hope you break the record of Baby Root." And, Babe Ruth, but Mrs. Ruth was living at that time, and she was quoted as saying that Babe Ruth would have been proud that Hank Aaron, and Hank Aaron was very respectful of Babe Ruth, and he said he didn't want to take anything away from Babe Ruth, that he just wanted people to remember him, Hank Aaron, as doing what he did. And he was a very humble man. Now he could get a little riled. One quick story that's in the book about the famous strawberry incident, when one of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporters was going to go visit Aaron in the locker room. Aaron was a little ticked off about some of the coverage, some of the things that people had said in the journal. One was about him being more or less misquoted on whether he wanted to be commissioner of baseball. And so anyway, Frank Highland, one of the reporters, he went down to the locker room, and one of the guys said, "I don't think you need to talk to Mr. Aaron today. He's just a little upset." He said, "No, it's okay. I'll go in." Make a long story short, this was Agriculture Day. I worked for the Department of Agriculture for 34 years, and but this was before I started. What had happened, they had given pints of strawberries to each player. They had them in their locker. So anyway, Frank comes up and starts to talk to him. Well, at some point, Hank got that carton of strawberries and he just pushed it into Frank's, on his collar on his shirt, and Frank walks away, and he goes up to the press box, and this is where Bob Hope, the publicity director, was, and some of the others, and Bob was looking at him, looking at his shirt, and he said, "You're going to have a little trouble going home with that shirt and all that lipstick on it." And Frank said, "That's not lipstick." He had all over his shirt, but that was unusual. But you can imagine the daily things that Aaron had to listen to. Sometimes the media did not treat him very well. I think as a whole they did, but there was some controversy, especially when they were wanting to hold him out for the Cincinnati series.
Right. So the season started in Cincinnati. In the first game, Hank Aaron hit number 714, and then the Braves wanted Hank Aaron to break the record at home, obviously, and the commissioner Bowie Kuhn wanted him to keep playing, and there was some controversy there, and then obviously Kuhn doesn't show up. But I want to take a step back real quickly, because it talks about really how fun this book is. As you get towards the back, you have a whole bunch of quotes from Mrs. Babe Ruth. You have Hank's mom. You have Phil Niekro, Steve Blass, Carl Yastrzemski. And then, like you mentioned, you have some kids' quotes. "You swing the bat around like an angry elephant. They couldn't strike you out with a ping pong ball. You would hit that too. So let's do it, Hank. 7:15, here we come." And this one I really love. This is from SR in somewhere in Virginia. "I want an autographed ball, Mr. Aaron. This is a school project. Please send it fast, because whoever wins gets free ice cream for a week." So you just then you talk about his Hall of Fame life and Jackie Robinson a little bit, and it really just a fantastic book. Now, you mentioned also that you wrote a different book. Do you have any other books coming up? Do you have any other ideas for things you want to write?
Well, I had started doing. I love movies, and I did the three collector books on comic books, baseball cards, and I documented about 39 different collectibles. And I think I kind of covered those, like Coca-Cola stuff, and I wanted to do something on some character actors. I've been a fan of character actors in movies and TV show. Those are the ones that really put together a great movie. You know, like from years past, Chill Wills, Andy Devine, folks like that. And I was hoping to try to get something like that started, but right now we're so busy with the book, and it's been not only on Amazon and Summer Game Books, but we have a supply of books at the Atlanta History Center here on East Paces Ferry Road in Atlanta, and it's good because the History Center and the Braves have put together a More Than Brave exhibit on Henry Aaron, and it is a really good exhibit that tells about his life. It has all his baseball cards and photos from years past, and we're happy that they're having the book there, and we're actually going to be going on a book tour here in a few weeks. And we have been lucky enough to set up at Truest Park and the Battery, the Baseballism store, which is, if you've never been to a Baseballism store, I highly recommend it. It's a great clothing store. You know, everybody's got to have gear now. You got to wear gear. You got to wear
I love your Hank Aaron hat.
You know, we even got one for the book. But we're going to be going to hopefully 3 or 4 Baseballism stores across the country. We're hoping to go to the Field of Dreams. There's a store there.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yes. In Dyersville, Iowa. We're hoping to go to where the Texas Rangers, the Baseballism store there, and the ones in St. Louis and Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a great place because that's where Hank Aaron started, and that's where he ended. And I think there'll be a lot of interest in him at that particular store. But we're going to start on the 22nd of June, and we'll be gone for a couple of weeks. And hopefully, maybe we can talk to you when we get back. But
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I want to hear all about that tour. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Randy? Unfortunately, we came to the bottom of the hour. It comes quickly, and
it went so fast, didn't it?
It goes much too quickly. I want to thank you so much. Again, the book 715 at 50. I'll bring up the other picture here by Randy Cox. Well worth your time. I reviewed it on Start Spreading the News about a week or two ago. Take a look. It's a great book, Randy. I wish you only the best on the book tour and with the book, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been great. Thank you. All right, my friends, another great half hour. That was awesome. So many great stories about one of baseball's greatest players and greatest gentlemen, Hank Aaron. So stay tuned if you're watching this live on any of the many ways you can watch the Northeast Streaming Sports Network for the Mac and Jack Show coming up at 8 p.m. You can also watch the Start Spreading the News show every Monday night at 9 p.m. And until then, I'll see you again. Have a great